This is a video lesson on adding and subtracting polynomials. So first up, a reminder of what a polynomial is. It's an algebraic expression that's made by adding or subtracting two or more monomials. A monomial is a single term. It can be a constant with no variables. It can have multiple variables. This one has an x and y. It can have variables and exponents. In fact, even the sign that comes just before or to the left of a monomial is part of that term. It's part of the monomial. So each one of these is a monomial. And if there's no negative in front, it's implied that that is a positive term. When you put them all together and add or subtract them, so if I put some signs in between, 12 minus 7xy plus negative 2x squared y cubed, that is a polynomial. So it's a combination of multiple monomials. When you add or subtract polynomials, you can only combine the like terms. That's an expression that we're going to use a lot in math. The like terms are the terms that have the same variables with the same exponents. So for instance, this term that has x squareds, there's 7 of them, and this term that has negative 2x squared, so also x squareds, those are like terms, and I can combine those together. When I group those like terms, we'll talk about what to do with that in a second. This here, this negative 3y cubed and this plus y cubed, those are like terms because they have the same variable and the same exponent. To have a like term with this one, it's not sufficient that this has an x squared and that this has an x squared, because this has an x squared and a y. A like term with this would have to have an x squared and a y. So these two here are like terms. When I group up the like terms, the way I combine them is by adding their coefficients. So they can have any coefficient here. When I group them, I will add their coefficients together. When I group this one and this term here, when I group this one and this term here, I'll group them by adding their coefficients together. So this has 7x squareds, this has negative 2x squareds. When I combine them together, that's 7 plus negative 2, or 7 minus 2, which is 5. X squareds. The type of term that it is, meaning the variable and the exponent, do not change. This one here, negative 3y cubed plus 1y cubed. If there's no number in front, it means there is one of that term. That's negative 2y cubed, and this one remains unchanged. It just gets copied down afterwards. That's it. That's how you add or subtract like terms. Here are a couple of examples. If you want to give them a try, you can pause maybe and see if your answer is correct. I'll put the answers up in just a second. That's the answers to the first one. And the second one, again, if you want to pause for a moment just to see if you can group the like terms here. The fact that there are decimal values as coefficients doesn't change anything. You'll still add the coefficients if you have like terms. This one here, even though the order is different, c squared d to the power 5, d to the power 5c squared, they have the same variables and the same exponents. So the c is squared, here the c is squared, here the d is to the power 5, here the d is to the power 5. That's good. That counts. That's the same. So this is the answer to this one, all grouped up. Cool. Finally, if you are going to add or subtract an entire expression, so if you have a polynomial that is in parentheses in a bracket, if you are adding the whole thing, it's as if there's a 1 in front of that bracket. So I have 1 4x squared, 1 negative 3x, and 1 5. And here I'm adding 4x, I'm adding negative 7x squared, and I'm adding 1. So this ends up being these terms plus these terms. What I will do first is get rid of the brackets. So knowing that I'm adding this term, adding this term, and adding this term. And then I will group up all of the like terms. And that will be my final answer. Now, the reason that this doesn't look like a whole lot of a first step, but if, for instance, I had had something like this, where I'm adding this entire polynomial and I'm subtracting this one, this subtraction means that I'm subtracting 2r squared and that I'm subtracting negative 3. And subtracting a negative is the same as adding. In this case, I don't have to worry about that. When I'm adding this, adding a negative, adding a negative, adding a positive, all of the signs of those individual terms will stay the same. I'll still have plus 4y minus 8r squared minus 2 and plus r cubed. But here, this means that I am subtracting this. So I'm going to take away 2r squared, and it means that I'm going to add 3. Subtracting a negative means adding. So this is what I would end up with. These terms here, these signs change, and then I would group together all of the like terms. To get creative with the shapes there. So if you want to pause to take a look at how all these things ended up here, that is the final answer. That is it.